week, Question Time travels to a different part of the United Kingdom. Tonight, we're in the Warwickshire town of Bedworth. In the heart of the West Midlands, a former coal mining area with a proud industrial past that's facing new challenges, including the crisis at Jaguar Land Rover just down the road in Solihull. Our audience members arriving here this evening, as every week, reflect the general political picture across the nation. And they want to ask about ID cards, Donald Trump and paracetamol, and that cyber attack at Jaguar Land Rover. Welcome to Question Time from Bedworth. On tonight's panel from the government is Lisa Nandy, Culture Secretary in Keir Starmer's cabinet, who's also a good friend of a man who could pose a challenge to Keir Starmer, Andy Burnham. For the Tories, GP-turned-politician Luke Evans, a shadow health minister and the MP for Hinckley and Bosworth. Fresh from her party conference in Bournemouth, the Lib Dems education spokesperson, Rhaenyra Wilson. Reform UK's deputy leader, Richard Tice, whose party swept the board in council elections here in May. And the musician and activist Billy Bragg, who was Labour for a long time, but is now looking for a new political home, somewhere perhaps between Jeremy Corbyn and the Greens. Good evening, welcome to our panel, welcome to our audience here in Bedworth. Very good to see you all. Thank you for choosing to come and spend your evening with us, and of course, welcome to you at home. There's always a lively conversation on social media, should you just wish to join in or sit back and watch the programme. Let's get our first question, which is from Ian Maidment.
Will compulsory ID cards stop the small boats?
Well, we only just heard about this evening, didn't we? So it's rather timely, your question, Ian. Keir Starmer is apparently going to set up plans tomorrow for digital ID cards. Lisa Nandy, please do tell us more.
Well, we've been thinking about, as a government, what we can do, pulling every lever at our disposal to make sure that we get a grip on the immigration chaos, that we're able to welcome people to this country who have a right to be here, and that we're able to swiftly process and return people who don't. And I think many towns around the country have got really fed up with the levels of chaos that we've seen. In my town, in Wigan, we have had a couple of asylum hotels open up. We've had a lot of HMOs being bought up to rent out to asylum seekers that have made life quite difficult for the local population.
How will these digital ID cards work?
Well, one of the things that we're thinking about is whether to introduce digital ID, and we think there is some merit in this. The Prime Minister will say a bit more about this tomorrow, but we think that they offer two benefits. The first is that they'll be able to make sure that people are able to prove their right to be here, to work here legally, very easily, which will then help us to deal with the illegal economy and stop people being undercut at work. But we also think there might be big benefits as well for citizens. If you think about the way that the NHS app has developed in recent years, and now you're much more able to do things like make GP appointments online and access your medical records, we think there may be benefits to the general population as well. But I would just say this, beware of any politician who tells you that when it comes to getting control of immigration, there is one single solution. We are coming at this from every single angle, disrupting the gangs, supporting people who have the right to be here, returning people.
We know that's not
working. I'm sorry, Richard, but you know you've had a lot to say about this week, and it's a different story every single time. The truth is, beware these snake oil salesmen
so now you're jumping on a new bandwagon.
That's just not true. I mean, we've deported more people under this government than ever before.
Can I just bring you back to the question about ID cards? Because we're obviously only just finding out about this. Will it be compulsory for people to carry ID cards?
Well, look, the Prime Minister is going to make some comments about this tomorrow. I can't preempt them, but what I can say to you is beware these snake oil salesmen who tell you that there are simple solutions. If there were simple solutions, they would have been done by now. Don't buy what this guy is selling.
I'll come to you in a minute. Just let me go around the panel. Luke, is this something that the Conservative Party supports?
Well, Ian's question was, is it going to solve it? No. Full stop. That's not going to solve it. I take a step back. Why are we having this debate tonight, of all nights, with an announcement made like this? There's something called in politics the dead cat theory, where you're not sure what to do. You throw a dead cat out to distract, because the Prime Minister's under pressure from the likes of Andy Burnham coming forward and putting pressure on him. this would be the perfect place to have this discussion in Parliament. Why are we not announcing this to Parliament? We've had the recognition of Palestine announced outside. This was planned by the government. They could have had scrutiny in Parliament, yet we don't. So I can't answer any of these questions because neither can Lisa. Lisa's come out here to defend it, and she's only found out that she's going to be doing it tonight.
I mean, the leader of your party, Kemia Badenoch, says gives the impression she's not sure if it will work. Chris Philp seems to think it might have some merit. Do you think it will work?
Well, this is why we need to explore it. I
just don't know?
I genuinely don't know.
OK, you don't know?
Well, let me
need to hear
just ask
anymore.
that question, because we don't know, is it going to be access for NHS? What about digitally excluded people? Are they going to have them? I mean, it's a bizarre situation that Tony Blair put this forward back when he was in government, and then only last year, and now the new government has decided, actually, we like this, after voting against voter ID. So it seems very mixed. I don't quite understand where we're trying to get to.
It's called a gimmick.
Well, this has just come into the public domain today. Let's hear what our audience think about it. It's our first chance to do so. Yes, man there.
If a digital ID card, how will it physically stop people coming to the shore?
So, look, this is exactly
question.
the
Great
point.
question.
Well, I know, but I mean, don't listen to these two. I mean, this government presided over record levels of immigration and stopped processing asylum claims, which is why so many towns around the country have been dealing with what we've been seeing in recent days. That's the point that I'm making, is that there is no one single solution to this. I tell you what will stop people coming over on small boats if we disrupt the criminal gangs. That's why we've
How's
done...
that working out?
Reach an agreement. Well,
over 50,000 in your 12...
First flight took off last week.
In the last 14 months,
sorry.
you're up 40% this year alone. Smashing the gangs has encouraged the gangs. It's a catastrophe.
It hasn't encouraged the gangs. The first
then why are the
flights
numbers up over 40% this calendar year,
The first
Lisa?
returns to France happened last week.
Brilliant. 3. So 50,000 in and 3 out.
Richard, let me just... No, wait a minute, because I want to hear a bit more from our audience.
We
We're
know that
slightly
you
off the
guys
subject here.
find it hard to
Man
do
there in the
maths,
check
but
shirt.
that is just nonsense.
Man there in the check shirt.
In my opinion, I don't think it's going to stop immigration, but it's going to open doors to having ID cards on your phone without producing the thing. But it is going to open up fraud where people can create false apps and then it can be reproduced. So it defeats the purpose of bringing it on phones when we've already had cyber attacks that are happening now. And how do we not know they're going to happen to our phones?
OK, man here.
It's really interesting to sort of bring it up. I think it's only literally just been released, so how is anyone supposed to form sort of a critical opinion on it, or say that it works or it doesn't work? The actual issue is sort of asylum and people coming in and people not processing claims. That is the problem. Absolutely. That's what needs to be solved.
100%. All right. Man there in the stripy tie in the middle. Yes, holding your hand up. Yeah.
Thank you. I think this is just another cost to the people. It's going to cost billions of pounds.
Yeah.
It's not actually going to be beneficial in real terms. How a piece of plastic in your pocket is going to stop people coming over from France is... I don't even know where that argument comes from. This is one of those things where you can see it costing loads and then suddenly it gets benched because it's not going to work.
Right, Munira.
So,
I'm a bit confused by your leader at his conference, because in the same speech he seemed to think it was a really bad idea, but on the other hand he said, well, maybe we need to move the times and actually have ID cards.
So we have put out a very clear statement this evening, because the reports that we're reading and hearing about this evening suggest the government is wanting to introduce a compulsory digital ID scheme. We have always been clear, and Ed has been clear, that the Liberal Democrats do not support a compulsory digital ID scheme. I don't think people in this country should be criminalised if they don't wish to hand over their personal and private data to the state in order to go about their daily lives. And we know this government's, not just this government, every government has been pretty bad at handling and storing our personal data. As a member of the audience said, this is going to cost billions of pounds, and I'm not quite sure, as another member of the audience said, how this is going to actually stop people coming over in small boats or, through other irregular routes. And we've got to think about the digitally excluded, the older people, the vulnerable, and the disabled, those people who perhaps don't have online access. So I have big concerns about any sort of compulsory scheme. We need to see more details. And if the government really wants to bring down the asylum backlog and put a deterrent in place, they would spend some of this this money that they want to spend on digital ID cards on putting in place what we proposed this week was a Nightingale processing centres, so doubling the number of people processing asylum claims so that we can clear this massive backlog that we've got in the space of 6 months, deport those who shouldn't be here.
You think you could do that in 6 months?
If you double...
Hang on a minute. Because I've looked at this, your suggestion about Nightingale Centre. So you're suggesting, as you say, doubling the number of cases
under emergency,
2,000 to 4,000.
Under emergency powers,
and building or finding centres where the processing can be done. What makes you think you can do that in 6 months?
Well, because there is emergency contingencies legislation in place that we would use, because this is, I think, an urgent emergency situation. It's a humanitarian situation for those people stuck in those hotels, and clearly it is an urgent situation for the communities that have those hotels in their areas.
So and how much do you think it would cost?
Well, I think it would cost a lot less than housing people.
But how much? You must have some idea.
Is there a ballpark?
No, I don't have a ballpark for you today, but I can tell you, you will save, if in 6 months you've cleared the backlog and you can deport a lot of those people back.
But just to be clear, we have doubled the rate of asylum claims that we process.
Millions of pounds a day on hotels. Those millions of pounds could be spent on processing the backlog and deporting the people who can't be here.
No, it's just, Munira, my point is that we have already doubled the rate of processing asylum claims.
Well, I'm telling you to double them again, because that is the way to deter people.
Just to be clear, you've no idea how much that would cost.
On ID cards, I don't think that is going to solve the asylum
you made that
problem.
clear. Richard Tice.
So the question is, will compulsory ID cards stop the boats? The simple answer is no, of course it won't. We've already got 2 forms of ID. It's called passports, and it's national insurance numbers, and you have to have a national insurance number to work. So if we use those properly, if we're worried about, which we are, the quantity of people who are here illegally and working illegally, then we should use the national insurance numbers properly with a proper deterrent, significant deterrent, for employers that break the laws. We know that governments are very bad at managing big IT projects, whether it's Tony Blair's efforts 20 years ago, whether it's the Post Office Horizon scandal. This would cost billions of pounds, bound to overrun, and would achieve absolutely nothing and would take years to introduce. So it's a disastrous idea.
And they're in the blue sweater, or grey sweater, I think you've got on there,
Doesn't this actually mean smaller government, which I would have thought would have appealed to you, Mr Tice? Because we already have a number of IDs, national insurance, driver's licence, passports, etc. Would it also deter people from coming to the UK on the basis that they would know that without this document they wouldn't be able to work in the kind of gig economy?
Well, in theory, with national insurance numbers, you shouldn't be able to work without one of those, but that's not being properly enforced because there's not a proper deterrent. So no, it'll make no difference whatsoever. Those who want to come here illegally and work illegally, that's what they're doing. There has to be a proper deterrent.
Man there in the anorak,
Well, if I was an immigrant sitting over there in France, I'd be saying to myself, well, they're going to have ID cards. I better not go to England. Someone's having a laugh, isn't they? It's not going to work. It's a stupid idea. And I totally agree with the Nightingale centres. We need to process these people. These are... So most of them are decent people. They're well educated. They've done well. They've travelled all the way across Europe to get here. So they've got to have some initiative. Let's get them in our workforce. Let's get them processed and get them working so they can pay back.
All right. Billy, will compulsory ID cards stop the small boats?
No. I don't think, as the gentleman was saying there, I don't think they'll stop the small boats. But I'm concerned more...
So when the French government, for example, I'm not saying if they're right or they're wrong, but one of their arguments is the pull factor of coming to the United Kingdom is that because we don't have ID cards, it's much easier to come over and then disappear into the employment black market.
But they do have ID cards in France, don't they? Does it stop immigrants going there? I don't think it does it?
No.
My concern is more about civil liberties, to be perfectly honest with you. All of a sudden, it's put the whole problem onto us. We're going to be the people who have to be carrying these cards around. So if you're acting in a way that is not standard, the way people, you know, the council or the police look at it, the chances are you're going to be stopped. Since the Equalities Commission said that trans women shouldn't use ladies' toilets, cis women are being confronted because they don't present in a traditional feminine way. They're being angrily confronted in ladies' toilets now. And I think this will be the same. Any person who doesn't look like a standard English person could be stopped by the police or the authorities, demand to produce their card. And even those people who do look like a standard English person, if we can decide what that is. Say you're going down to Euston one day and you get there to find that the authorities have closed the station because they're checking for illegal immigrants and everybody has to go through their system to get out of the railway station. This is the sort of society we're moving towards. I don't think we should do it.
Woman there in the middle, in the dark top.
I do believe in the principle of identity cards, but unfortunately I think the timing's not right, and until we get on top of the criminal gangs, the fraud behind passports and identity fraud, it's just another opportunity for the criminal gangs to raise funding to support further terrorism.
So it's interesting, the responses I'm getting. Obviously, I only know what the people putting their hands up are saying. There's some polling, it's not a huge amount, which suggests that more people are in favour of identity cards than not. Now, just out of interest, and I say this story's only broken tonight, there's lots we don't know about the plan that the government is proposing. But can I have a show of hands? Who is in favour here of ID cards? Well, not the majority, I think it's fair to say. Let's hear from someone who is in favour. Yes, you're there with the glasses. Hang on, we'll just get a microphone to you. Yeah.
I think in terms of the criminal gangs, if that's such an issue with the boats, and obviously we're saying that the immigrants are coming in through organised crime groups, if we've got the ID card and we're able to track actually the movements and things, that's going to bring money back, which obviously, in terms of that in society, it's going to be able to be used in other places as well, which we desperately need at the minute. So I don't particularly see the issue with them.
OK, I think you put your hand up as well, did you, next to... Oh, someone did. OK, I'm losing my marbles here. Ian, you asked this question, you got your hand up at the back. What do you think?
I agree it's maybe part of the solution. It's not going to solve it on its own. Exactly. I agree we need to be very careful with politicians but promised a magic bullet. I mean, that's been proven to be wrong in the past. I think whatever we do, I take a broad Billy's point, we need to treat people with dignity and respect. Yeah. These people are desperate, they've come here, OK? Whatever we do, we need to treat them with respect. And if we're going to do it, we need to do it respectfully.
Man here in the front, the white shirt.
I just travelled back from Estonia. They are an incredible digital-first country. They have an ID card system that works incredibly well. All government systems are all online. Richard mentions national insurance numbers. The national insurance number isn't associated with your photo or details. Essentially, what you can start to do here, and we're only hypothesising until Keir Starmer announces it tomorrow, but you could stop benefit fraud, NHS fraud, a lot of ways in which people are claiming from the system. You could stop it dead by having a single ID card system.
The flip side is you get to see what's going on with some of the ID processing in China, and you see how they can map you and use social credit for what you can and can't do. This is the worry that you have on the other side of the argument when this technology is put in place that restricts you on what you can do because you don't fit or conform with the state.
What do you think the government might do to that end?
Well, that's we still don't know, but that's what I'm saying.
Well, you also think that must be concerned, like what,
no, because it could be a next step. We don't even know what sort of access you were able to get. So is it going to be used for the NHS? Well, that could be quite sensible, but what about school?
And we have the NHS app already, for example.
Yeah, but then it's tracking. We've seen it with the VPN side of things. People work their way around the VPN side. So are we going to link it to people's bank accounts?
We should be very worried about the power of the big state, as Billy quite rightly said. And I think the point about your comments on the national insurance cards, but in a sense, we should take that base, the national insurance numbers and cards, and use those properly. And if we do that, it'll be much simpler, much faster, and much cheaper. And that actually, in terms of stopping illegal working, that is a much better route.
So, Lisa, this is going to be announced tomorrow, and I appreciate you're slightly on the spot here because you don't want to preempt
Oh, go on.
what the PM's going to say. But obviously, we want to find out as much as possible tonight. What do you think about what you're hearing? Because it's not a universal welcome.
Yeah, look, I think with respect to Luke and Munira, I think and Billy as well, I do think there is a proper debate that we've been having as a country for quite some time, and it's right to raise concerns about the role of the state and how far the state is able to encroach on people's lives. I totally take that point. But I do also think that we've got a real problem in this country. We've got people struggling to access services that they should be able to access. I mean, the voter ID was a really good case in point. Nobody, certainly Labour,
you
wasn't
were opposed to voter ID.
Just let me finish this sentence, because this is the point, is that one of the real concerns we had with voter ID was not about being robust about the electoral system. We all supported that. It was the fact that only certain people were being asked to show ID, and they didn't necessarily have that ID, so it was cutting people out from the system.
But you were opposed at the time to the principle of voter ID, and you've changed your position.
ID. But I would just say this as well, is that the asylum chaos that we inherited is awful. It's awful for people who need to come here to find a place of safety, who are kept for years and years living in the most appalling conditions, unable to work. It's awful for people who want to see the economy thrive and want to see people contribute. It's awful for people whose communities are being destroyed by the ongoing battles where people are being placed into that accommodation, and you've got far-right demonstrations and people having to put up with that every single day of their lives. And we are determined to get a grip on that. Now, do I think that digital ID is the whole solution? Of course I don't. Do I think that we should be pulling every lever at our disposal to deal with this? Yes, I do. And all the things that have been mentioned on this panel, processing claims much more quickly, closing down asylum hotels, removing people swiftly who don't have the right to be here, agreeing a returns deal with France, all of those things.
But you're already experiencing the problems with the lefty lawyers.
I would just say this
the lawyers are stopping you until you leave the ECHR.
You have opposed every single one of those measures.
And then,
you can't
because none of them are working.
And say there's a problem, and then with a straight face turn to this audience.
Can I just say, when you both speak at the same time, no one at home can hear. So make your point separately.
Perhaps you could let me finish the sentence then. You cannot sit here with a straight face and oppose every single measure that we've put forward to tackle this when you don't have a single one of your own.
And also, Richard, I have to say,
you've got to leave the ECHR. You've got lawyers, as we speak, stopping you from returning people to France. You've experienced that in the last... You've done 3, maybe 4. Brilliant. Well done. 50,000 have arrived since the election. Until we leave the ECHR, scrap the Human Rights Act, this will never stop. That is the reality. You've got to detain and deport rapidly.
You're suggesting that by leaving the ECHR, this will solve all the problems. It will be OK, and
it'll stop the lawyers and their lawfare. That's what it'll do.
Yeah, well, we bought a leave everything argument off the leader of your party before, and it didn't quite work out the way we were expecting it to. A lot of people have buyer's remorse over Brexit. So that kind of simplistic argument is the sort of thing that leaves you in a very, very difficult situation with regard to your relationships with our neighbours, who are the people we have to rely on to sort this problem out, because it's not just us who are facing this, it's the whole of the world. So by working with them, rather than leaving everything and turning our back on things and walking away, we need to engage.
And we've sent France over £500 million, and more people are leaving the French shores. So that's not working out very well either, is it?
Can I return this to the question about the ID cards? And we're having a great debate here because there's lots of questions to be asked. Can I ask Lisa, why has this not been announced in Parliament?
You did make that point earlier.
No, but
so you're just making the same point again.
Because otherwise it's critical to the entire debate that all these questions are coming up. You're asking them. We're trying to think on the spot of what's coming up. This would be something that you'd sensibly plan out and announce and talk through so we can hear what the government is planning, because you've been put on the spot
because
as well,
a previous Conservative government never made announcements outside Parliament.
OK, all right. Well, the fact is, it's broken on the news tonight and we're discussing it. All right, I'm going to move on. And I just want to know, I'm going to move on, or else we'll run out of time for other questions. But before I do, I just want to tell you where we'll be next week, which is Belfast. And the week after that, we're off to Shrewsbury. So if you live in or around Belfast or Shrewsbury and you'd like to come and be part of our audience, we would love to see you. The instructions are on the Question Time website. It's all there. So Belfast or Shrewsbury, we'd love to see you there. OK, let's take another question, because there's lots of things that I want to try and get through. Michelle Pearson, there you are.
After Donald Trump linked autism to paracetamol, what role should politicians play in discussing unproven claims?
So Donald Trump, he's been saying quite a lot in the last few days, and he has claimed that there is a link between pregnant women using paracetamol, or Tylenol as it's known in the States, and an increased risk of autism in some children. And he says women should fight like hell to only take it in cases like if you've got a real high fever. Otherwise, they should tough it out without paracetamol. Luke, as the former GP on the panel, you're an obvious person to come to on this.
So the science to date says there is no evidence of any link. Let's be categorical for anyone who is listening to that. As a GP, you get a lot of people come to you to talk about the evidence, and you've got to balance up the risk and the reward. We know the evidence is concrete that the risk of having a fever untreated when you're pregnant can lead to early pregnancy, it can lead to things like birth defects. So it is absolutely imperative that people keep using it and follow the medical advice. But let's slip it back a little bit further. And what's actually going on with the study that's being talked about? Here, and we saw it in the pandemic, is confusing causation and correlation at the moment. Let me give you an example what I mean by this. When ice cream intake goes up, so does sunburn. Does that mean that ice cream causes sunburn? No, it doesn't. People eat ice cream when it's sunny and they're out in the sun. So the difference between causation and correlation is really important. And science looks into the idea to work out where these fit, and there isn't anything that links it. They should keep checking. That's what science does. But in this case, you have to follow the advice. We know exactly what would happen if you don't treat fevers, and that's very dangerous. So I think this is really scary to be putting that out, which isn't thought out. It's good to have it in the medical world, not in the political world.
Richard?
Yeah, I think Luke has absolutely nailed it. In this country, we listen to our GPs, we listen and trust the NHS, and their evidence has been crystal clear for, I think, as long as us know.
So why did your party leader say he doesn't take sides when it comes to science?
Because we're in a sense, we're not doctors or scientists. We trust our scientists. Science, in a sense, is never settled. It always progresses. But as Luke said, the reality is there's no evidence that anybody is credibly saying in the UK that...
But if science is never settled, do you believe in biological sex? Is that settled?
Oh, my goodness. Now we're getting to a whole... Luke, if you don't mind... That's a question, and it's a massive question. and we could spend an hour on paracetamol. So if you'll forgive me... No, Luke, if you'll forgive me... Well, listen, it's not that it's not a subject worth discussing. It is. But it is a subject that one should discuss at length and not briefly in a soundbite. So, Richard, let's come back to the point. So Nigel Farage said... I don't side with anybody. It's never settled. I've no idea if women should be using paracetamol when they're pregnant or not.
But in this country, we trust our GPs, we thank our GPs, we trust the NHS, and as a sovereign nation, that's what we do, and I think we should stick to it.
And so Donald Trump was wrong?
I don't know why he said what he said. That's his issue. It's that's the United States. This is what we do in the UK. We trust our GPs, and we thank them.
And do you think he was wrong to say that, Donald Trump?
I don't know why he said it. I've no idea.
Do you think... I mean, Luke has been quite clear. Luke has been quite clear that he was wrong.
Based on everything that we've seen and heard and what we know in this country, yeah, it's... Why did he say it? I don't know.
I'm asking, do you think he was wrong?
Probably.
Probably.
Oh.
Probably or certainly?
Look, I'm not a GP. He's wrong.
You're a politician.
The woman here in the front.
As the mum of an autistic girl, it's just another stick to beat autistic kids with, and another stick to beat mums with.
Exactly.
And we know that he doesn't like women very much. So
here.
There you go.
Okay. Man at the back with the white shirt and glasses. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I want to take it into your own line of work, Fiona. The experts, the political people who come out with deception, who try to deceive us to get a headline, I think we need to call them out further. I think scrutiny needs to be increased. You do a good job, BBC Verify, but can I give you a suggestion? Because we've got a lot of nonsense coming our way. You're old enough probably to remember. Do you remember Channel 4 used to put a little triangle up saying disturbing content? Could we put that against Mr Trump? Or perhaps Mr Farage with his swans? If I may also, I've really given this some thought.
I can see
what we do with Verify, we hear it first. So the dissemblers and the deceivers get the oxygen of publicity they crave. They love it. Do you know what they do at the cinema? I was there last week. Before you watch the show, a certificate to say what's coming. So if we could get a strapline, perhaps across the lines about swans and autism, to say dishonest. Should we try that, Mr. Tice?
Here, if you want to, I don't know if you want to respond to that.
We're clear. There's no link. The evidence is that's how we do it in the UK. We trust our GP and our NHS, and I don't think there's any dispute about it.
OK. Man at the very, very back. Can we see? Right in the middle, yeah.
Yeah, President Trump suggested using bleach as an injection for COVID, so I don't know why anybody's taking any notice of him, really.
Manira.
Well, I mean, it's clearly dangerous, unscientific nonsense. I agree with the lady in the front row that this is yet another stick to beat mothers, expectant mothers, and those with autism. I am very concerned that Nigel Farage and his colleagues don't want to categorically call out President Trump on this very dangerous statement that he's made. That's because they want to stay in his good books. And let's not forget, at their own conference, they had one of their medical advisors who helped write their health manifesto.
He's not. No, that's Manira, he's not, and he clarified that today. He's never been, and never has been, is not. And never will be.
Can I just explain? Hang on. I'm just going to explain in case people are wondering what you're talking about.
Yeah,
so at the Reform Conference, an advisor to the US Health Secretary, Asim Malhotra, said, one of Britain's most eminent oncologists said to me to share with you today, he thinks it's highly likely that the COVID vaccines have been a significant factor in the cancers in the royal family. Now, when Reform were asked about that, I think you disassociated yourself from those.
We've never been associated with him, and he's reaffirmed that today.
And will you give a categorical assurance that he won't contribute to your health manifesto at the next election?
Categorical.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I was on the radio with Dr. David Bull from your party on Tuesday, and he was questioning the safety of COVID vaccines and linking it to all sorts of issues. And in this country, where there are concerns with vaccine uptake, particularly in some communities, I think it's really, really important that we politicians do leave it to the scientists and doctors and not follow the lead of President Trump, as it seems that Nigel Farage and Trump and Reform seem to want to do.
No, we haven't.
Because we need to keep the public safe and give them good public health advice.
Just factually wrong, Manira. It's just factually wrong.
Well, you wouldn't categorically answer Fiona this evening.
He did in the end.
He said clearly that he didn't share that view. I've said it clearly. There's no ifs, no buts about it.
But there's something he said.
We know you're desperate to get publicity, but that is the reality. Come on.
I don't need the publicity, so I'm going to make this point, Richard. He also said in that interview, having said that he doesn't really, or given the impression he doesn't trust scientists.
Hang on, are we talking about Nigel Farage?
We're talking about Nigel, I'm sorry, yeah.
Right,
We're talking about Nigel Farage, yes. In his interview with Nick Ferrari on LBC yesterday, where he made the statement that he gave the impression he didn't trust scientists. He later said in the interview, when he was asked by Nick Ferrari why he believed that Sharia law was coming to Britain, he said he'd been told by a taxi driver. So he was willing to believe a Muslim taxi driver in Buckinghamshire rather than believe the scientific establishment when they're talking, this guy wants to be Prime Minister, you must be joking.
We've already got... There are over 80 Sharia courts in the United Kingdom. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I am, but there are also Jewish courts as well. And that's part of their religion, and we, as a tolerant nation, accept that. To demonise particularly the Muslims, it's just... this is the sort of thing why we worry about reform. Quite honestly with you, Richard,
we rely on the
English legal system. You never say anything.
You want to come back in?
Yes, I just want to say... there are party leaders in this country who are making unproofed claims, and it's really left for us to research...
Who do you mean, Michelle?
Well, Mr Farage. And it's left to us to research the actual facts, and I think it should be really rigorously called out when things aren't true, because I think as an electorate we distrust politics now because we're not told the truth.
And with respect to Nick Ferrari, he tried to do it, because I watched it online last night, he tried to do it, and all he got from Farage was smugness. And I don't think the British people are really prepared for that kind of politics.
And why are we leading in the polls then, Billy? In 100 national polls, we're leading by a significant margin because people are sick of the Uniparty, of how the Tories and now Labour are bankrupting the nation. We're going bust as a nation.
The good thing about you being leading the polls, Richard, is that now we're going to put you under scrutiny.
Excellent.
And you see how the audience are reacting to you already.
That's the joy of democracy. We're leading in every single national poll.
I must point out hang on, Billy, wait! I must point out there are plenty of Reform supporters in the audience as well.
Yeah, you're leading in every poll unless Andy Burnham is leader of the Labour Party. Then you're stuffed.
Here we go.
Talk about division.
No, not at all.
And the Labour leader is now saying that Mr Burnham and his desire to completely ignore the bond markets will bankrupt the country. So there's not much
wait a minute. Lisa, I need to give you a chance to answer this question.
We're talking about
since you mention Andy Burnham...
Sorry, Lisa.
Now, I know you're a good friend of Andy Burnham. I mean, you've said, I love Andy, which I appreciate you mean as a friend. I love Andy, and whatever he decides to do, I'll support him. Does that include standing for the leadership?
Look, I'm happy to answer that question, but I really do think, as the person...
Could you ask that first? And then we'll come to
the person who's sitting here from government, this question is far more important to the country. And I really do agree very strongly with every single word that Luke just said. And I really agree with the lady in the front row who said that this is just another way to make mums feel guilty. And trust me, we worry about our kids and we feel guilty every single day. We don't need any more of this. And Richard wasn't prepared to say that he disagreed with Donald Trump. I disagree with Donald Trump.
I disagree.
I think this is really, really dangerous nonsense. And I think if I was sitting in that audience right now and I'd come here as somebody who was supporting reform, I would think very carefully before you put these people in charge of our National Health Service. And I'll say this to you as well, because I heard somebody call out when Richard said, I'm not a GP, and somebody called out, no, you're a politician, and somebody else shouted, liar. Now, I'll just say to you on this panel that I have serious disagreements often with Munira and with Luke, but I am telling you that I do not believe they came into politics to do anything other than try and make people's lives better. We might disagree strongly about that, but I really do believe that. And when you've got this sort of nonsense going on, it absolutely has to be called out because it shakes our faith in democracy itself, and that is a dangerous place for this country to be in.
Fine, I hear you. But let me come back to that question. Listen, it's absolutely fair you make your point. Quite right to do so. You have said of Andy Burnham, whatever he decides to do, I'll support him. Does that include him standing for the leadership?
Look, what Andy Burnham decides to do with his career is entirely up to him. I work very closely with him. He's my mayor. And I'm really proud that by working with him and with Keir in a Labour government, we've been able to deliver so much more in the last year that I've been in Parliament than in the 14 years I was in Parliament since. I mean, ask yourself this. If anybody else on this panel was in government right now, if we didn't have a Labour mayor like Andy and a Labour Prime Minister like Keir, would we really have delivered the Hillsborough Law after 3 decades in which those families had to fight for justice? That's what I'm interested in. It's what Andy's interested in.
You said
what Keir's interested in.
Okay.
And genuinely...
All right, but you said it... Lisa, you said it only this month.
I just can't believe that this is what the media...
You said it only this month. Whatever he decides to do, I'll support him. Whatever. So if that includes standing to be the next Prime Minister, will you support him?
No, look, I'm really proud to be the Member of Parliament for Wigan, and I've got juice left in me yet. But I think he was a fantastic MP. He was my neighbouring MP for 7 years. He's been a brilliant mayor in Greater Manchester. But let me say this to you. In 2020, when Keir was elected leader of our party, we had just suffered our worst election defeat in 100 years, and nobody in this country thought for a minute that in 5 short years we would go from there to government with the chance to turn around people's lives. That's because of the leadership that the Prime Minister has shown. I couldn't be more proud to serve in his government, and there's so much that this country needs to do. But most of all, when we're debating issues like this, when people know that this country is at a crossroads, where we've got a serious choice to make about whether we're a country that can include all of us, or whether we follow Richard and his friends
you've got the
down
Labour
their
leadership
nasty,
fighting like cats and
divisive
dogs.
path, I can tell you that
What are you
every
talking about
single
divisive? Your
day
party's
we
divided.
wake up and think about how we can change people's lives in this country.
And so do
whether
we.
it's Andy, Keir or me, that is what we're doing, and I promise you that's what we'll continue to do.
And so do we, and that's why we're leading in the polls, because people are sick and tired of you saying you're going to stop the boats, you're going to stop illegal immigration, and it never happens, and the country is getting poorer under your leadership. And this Chancellor that's about to raise taxes for everybody in the November budget.
Honestly, Richard, I just think you might do a bit better just to listen for a moment, because we've heard a lot of...
OK, I'm going to take another question. Lee Hitchin, where are you sitting? Oh, there you are.
In light of the cyber attack on Jaguar Land Rover and other companies, should the taxpayer have to step in?
So, Jaguar Land Rover, not far from here at all, has shut down production since the end of August, losing something like £50 million a week. It's not clear when it's going to go back into production, and there's all sorts of worries about supply companies potentially going bust because they don't have the work. You're asking about cyber attacks more generally. There's also a story tonight about a network of nurseries where something like 8,000, the details, photographs, personal details, addresses of 8,000 families, parents and children, have been stolen, and there's an attempt to ransom that company in order to extort money from them. I mean, it's a significant problem. There's no doubt about that. Should the taxpayer step in, Billy?
I come from Barking in East London. It's now Barking and Dagenham. When I was growing up, everybody's dad either worked for the Ford Motor Company at Dagenham, making cars, or worked for one of the ancillary companies that was serving the car plant. That's where my father worked. He worked for a company that made testers for the cars for the factories. And whilst obviously the jobs on the line are very, very important, it's these ancillary companies that are spread around Jaguar Land Rover that really need the support. Tata, who own Jaguar Land Rover, are very, very wealthy. And I think because if the line starts up again tomorrow, they're going to need their suppliers to be ready to go. I think it's down to Tata really to come forward, step forward. And
rather than the government.
Rather than the government. I think they should be the very first call, because it's these ancillary companies that are crucial to the running of the line at Jaguar Land Rover.
Is there anyone here, given that we are so close to Jaguar Land Rover, is there anyone here who is affected by what's happening at Jaguar Land Rover at the moment? Anyone? Yes, keep your hands up and I'll come around a few. Yes, the man in the blue jacket here, towards the front.
Yeah, I'm indirectly affected by it.
And how is it? Tell us.
My partner works for them.
And how is that?
There's contingency plans going on in the business. Obviously, all the news, the news is talking about layoffs and the supply chain.
Is it a worrying time, or
not really? No.
Because I think they'll get through this.
Good.
Okay.
No, not yet.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Yes, man towards the back there.
My brother-in-law works for Jaguar Land Rover, and although he's enjoying the time off at the moment, he's very, very concerned about the future of the company because, like you say, they're losing £50 million a week. Tata are a huge conglomerate. They have got very deep pockets, but it's when they come to start up again, if these ancillary companies, like Billy said, have gone to the wall, sadly, who's going to be supplying them with parts to start the business up again?
And do you think that's something that the government should step in, or do you think it's down to
I agree with Billy. I think
down to Tata.
Yeah, they've got very deep pockets. It's in their interest to have the company back working again, so why not get them to, or encourage them to put money into it?
Man there in the grey sweater.
I'm a teacher in the community, and I know that, unfortunately, for many families within the community, this is going to be a bleak Christmas unless this is resolved. So, obviously, I would urge anyone to try and reach out to these people, whether that's through Tata and the government, etc. But certainly, this issue needs to be addressed, if only because this is an ongoing problem with cyber attacks with other companies.
Richard.
I mean, that is the key point, is actually these cyber attacks, sadly, you had M&S recently. I'm quite sure, and they may not be able to say too much, but I'm quite sure that the government cyber specialists are working closely, I hope they are, with JLR to help them get through this, to prevent other companies from suffering it. And, yeah, they need to talk to Tata. Yes, they've got a big balance sheet, but it's about ensuring rapid help and support for the supply chain. And I'm sure that is going on. I hope it is, because it's very serious, and we have no idea how long this may go on for. I mean, it took M&S weeks and weeks, I think, with their website.
Do you think it is the role of the government or Tata or Jaguar Land Rover to step in?
I think it's this issue of cyber attacks, whether it's in government departments or big corporations. They're all so closely interlinked now. We've got to share that expertise to try and protect our companies, our government departments, because only then can actually we ensure that all citizens, those who are worried here tonight and watching, are protected. It's really hard. There are some very, very bad hackers out there, and it's constantly on the move. And we're sort of constantly chasing our tail on this, and we have to hope that we've got the best people involved. It's really hard.
So, Lisa, where is the government on this? Because there's the reports that the government's considering buying component parts from the suppliers in order to keep them going, but that has potentially problems. Perhaps government-backed loans to the suppliers. What decision are we likely to get from the government?
So we're discussing all options with the companies affected, and Billy is absolutely right to say that it's not just Jaguar Land Rover, it's the entire supply chain, and that's hundreds of thousands of jobs, and that's hundreds of thousands of families who are dealing with the anxiety that the head teacher just talked about. The Business Secretary, Peter Kyle, and the Industry Minister have been working really closely with the company. But there is a role for government here. I mean, when British Steel was in trouble, we recalled Parliament and we stepped in to take control of the steel industry so that we could keep the furnaces burning. And we wasted no time in striking a trade deal, the only trade deal of its kind with the United States, to protect thousands of jobs at Jaguar Land Rover. That was the first call that the Prime Minister made after we were able to announce that deal. So we are keeping all options on the table in terms of keeping industry going. It's important to the families, it's important to the workforce, it's important to communities, but it's also important to the future of the country. And so we won't waste a minute in trying to turn it around. I did just want to say as well that I think Richard makes a really important point, which is about cybersecurity more generally, and there is a really big role for us as a government here. In the first few weeks when I was appointed last summer, our Cabinet Secretary pulled us together, and every department has been drawing up plans to deal with what is a growing threat of cybersecurity and cyber attacks. In my own area, we've had institutions like the British Library targeted, but obviously everybody is worried, not just about business, but about the National Health Service and others. So we'll shortly be bringing forward new measures to really tighten that up and to protect us better from what is a growing risk. But it is a challenge that every country in the world is dealing with, and we've got to be on the front foot about it.
Munir, in light of the cyber attack on JLR and other companies, should the taxpayer have to step in?
So I don't think in each and every case the taxpayer should be stepping in. But as far as JLR is concerned, this is an iconic British company. As we've heard, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs in the supply chain that are dependent on JLR. We've heard Tata, JLR have got deep pockets. I don't think they need or want the financial support. I'm worried about those small and medium-sized companies that supply them, and that's why I think the government should potentially be looking at a furlough-type scheme for those SMEs in the supply chain, because if we lose those jobs, if we lose those skills, that is an absolute hammer blow to an industry at a time where you've got Trump's tariffs from the US, you've got fierce competition from China. This is a really important industry, not just to this region, but to the country. So, I know Lisa did say we won't waste a minute to support, but this has been ongoing for several weeks now. Keir Starmer has been up to JLR many times to make big announcements. I'd like to see him up there meeting not just JLR, but some of the people in the supply chain and making sure that there is support on the table. And on the wider cyber point, I am really worried about this because there are companies involved in our critical infrastructure. We've seen airports affected as well. The cyber bill has been delayed by government. That needs to come forward quickly. We need better regulation for our companies and better tracking of what's going on so that we can be ready as a country and ahead of others.
Luke.
I think the government does have a role, but it's convening and putting pressure on. And what I mean by that, convening to pull everyone together to solve this solution, the insurers, the backers, those kind of things, the banks, to be able to make a decision, and then pressure on to say, hang on, can we get some loans, for example, to help? That's what happened. We saw that in the pandemic, and I remember we had this bizarre situation with some of the bounce-back loans where companies would go to the bank and say, well, you know, we'd like a loan. And they say, well, show us what your bank balance is going to be in the next couple of years. And they go, well, we can't because we're in the pandemic. But actually, if you asked as an MP saying, look, they can't give you that because we don't know where it's going, the pressure meant the banks said, OK, we'll get it. That's where government has the ability to make a difference. And I worry, as Munira pointed out, because I was speaking to some of my colleagues who are the MPs in the area, the worry is how slow this has been from the government to step in, to convene, to put it in place. I'm not sure furlough is the right idea, because the problem is, if we do furlough one time, when are we going to do furlough each company that comes up? Are we going to do every subsequent company that comes up? Because they all have an important part. But being able to make sure that in the immediacy there are loans there or some ability for people to stand on their own 2 feet to get them through those tough times, that's what we did in the pandemic, and I think there is a chance to be able to do that on something as important as the supply chain of the automotive industry that I represent in this area is crucial for.
We've got, I think it's about 8 minutes left, and I want to try and squeeze in this question. So I'd ask everyone on the panel to be reasonably brief, because I really want to hear from you on this. Jim Murphy, where are you? Brilliant, off you go.
Does flying the flag make you feel more British?
All right, so a quick look around Bedworth, where we are today. The bit that I saw, there are not a lot of flags. I happened to, one of our team happened to bump into a couple of coppers who said there had been a lot of flags up, and that they've been taken down. By whom? I don't know. What's your view on this, Jim?
I've not got a problem with people flying the flags. My problem's when they sneak out in the dead of night and they put them hanging from a motorway bridge, or they sneak into somebody else's street and put them in a lamppost down their street. I think the flag's been used for all the wrong reasons.
What reasons do you think it's being used for?
I think it's questioning people's patriotism. No? Okay. And if you disagree with them, you're not a patriot.
All right. A woman just a bit further along from you shot her hand up there. What are you going to say?
The flag's being put up by individuals or organisations.
Right. And you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
No, I mean that if the flags are being put up by individuals because they feel that they want to be patriotic, but if they're being put up by organisations that are trying to stir up some sort of bad feeling in society...
You're less keen on that?
Less keen on that,
All right,
yeah.
Man here in the pink shirt.
I live in a small village, Water Orton, which is about 15 miles away from here. Great, lots of flags going up. Is it patriotism when they actually fly them upside down because they don't even know the way they're supposed to go?
Richard, can I just say, Richard, you know your badge is upside down, don't you?
It's not.
It is, mate.
No.
It is the white stripe on the top corner.
Okay. You guys can sort this out of the programme. Munira.
So I think the question was, does it make you more British, flying the flag, from Jim? Well, I agree with Jim and some of the other audience members' comments. It doesn't make you more or less British, but I think it is important that we reclaim our flag, which is why you saw at the Lib Dem conference on Saturday we were busy waving our Union Jacks and St George's flags, because I think for most people we celebrate our Britishness, our British values of decency, fairness, tolerance, the rule of law. Sadly, we have seen recently that a small minority who do have other more extremist right-wing intentions have tried to hijack our flag, and how dare they do that? That is not what we are as a British people. And for those of us, you can see I'm brown-skinned, I'm born and brought up in London. Seeing those protests a couple of weeks ago in London where people were hijacking the flag and saying some awful things and attacking police officers made me feel sick and made me, for the first time ever in my home city, feel concerned about going out. I don't want those people to claim our flag. We need to claim it back. And I've already promised Lisa that on Saturday, when we're at Twickenham together watching the Red Roses and the Women's Rugby World Cup final, we'll wrap ourselves up in St George's flags and get a photo together.
Well, we can all look forward to that. Reasonably briefly, Richard.
Yeah, I think it's great to be patriotic, to fly the flag. I wear the flag pretty much every day on any jacket I wear. So... I'm proud to do that, and I think all of us do, and I think it's a great reaffirmation of why we should be proud to be British.
And what do you think about what Munira said I mean, interesting that you said that after that big rally, the big rally in London you're talking about, 150,000 people came, that it made you think for the first time, am I safe walking in certain parts of the
because
city?
some of the things that were reported on the news that were being said, and there were attacks on police officers and things, it wasn't a pleasant atmosphere amongst a minority. There were plenty of people there who had perfectly good intentions.
It's great to see lots of union flags everywhere, but obviously it has to be within the law, and any attacks on police officers is to be absolutely abhorred. It's despicable. They try and keep us safe, and we're very grateful.
Luke, does flying the flag make you more British?
To me, the flag means home. Factually, that's right, and spiritually, for me, that's what it is. So I worry that we've come into a point where we're seeing on one side there's a group of people that have sort of disdain for our flag or fear, and Emily Thornberry famously had disdain for the flag. On the other side, we're seeing people wave them so aggressively it becomes intimidation and almost worshipping the flag. Nigel Farage is sort of idolising it. So I really worry about where we are as a society that seems to be the case in point, because classically British people like to be proud, but we don't like to rub it in people's faces. We're respectful in the way in which we do it. I'd hate to think that I put a flag up that is disrespecting other people or making them feel unsafe, but at the same time I'm very proud of who I am and what the country we represent and where we go. And so I think that's the key part to it. The boring answer is actually in July 2021 there's a government document that sets out exactly what the criteria are across the country for flag flying. July 2021, you can look it up, and there are 3 criteria that are there to deal exactly with this.
Interesting reading for you when you get home.
Exactly.
Billy.
Thank you very much. Identity is always contested, wherever you are in the world. And it's fundamentally a personal construct. It's what you think you are. And from what I've heard, although, as the questioner mentioned, these flags go up in the middle of the night, nobody's come out to say what they're about. But those people who have, from that kind of background, have talked about it, have said they believe that we should salute this flag. And I think that's the problem about it. It's this kind of, this is my patriotism and you have to agree with it. There are many different types of patriotism, and I think, although sometimes the flag in the kind of demonstration you were talking about, Munira, is associated with that more racist, violent aspect of it, there's also a very positive aspect of it as well to bring together. And I think we're going to find out in the next coming years, because of the policies of Mr Tice's party, whether we are the sort of people, as a nation, who would attack a mosque because we've heard a rumour about a person of colour, or whether we are the people who will come out the next day and help tidy the mess up. And I know whose side I'm on.
Woman in the glasses.
Well, my husband felt really left out, so today he got his Warwickshire flag, stuck it on a pole and attached it to his bar in the garden.
Is it the bear and the ragged staff?
It is, it is.
What a great flag.
Lisa, briefly.
Well, I grew up in the 1980s in Manchester, and I come from a mixed-race family. My dad came to this country from India in the 1950s, and so I remember the days when the flag was being used to try and tell people like me that we didn't belong in this country. But my friends and my city told a completely different story. My friends growing up came from all different racial backgrounds. We lived together, played together, worked together. We were a great, tolerant, diverse city and much stronger for it. And Munira said that she and I are going to go and watch the Red Roses on Saturday. I was watching the Lionesses this summer. They are the Britain that I believe in. A Britain is wide enough and inclusive enough to stand for everybody and include everyone in it. And that's what the flag means to me, and that's why I'm so proud to fly it.
Okay. I've got very little time left, but just maybe one more point. Man there in the glasses and the suit and tie. Yes, you, sir, with the suit and tie on, yeah.
I think there's a distinct difference between nationalism and patriotism.
Yeah, I do.
What it means to be British has changed over the last 30, 40 years, and then we should be thinking about embracing different cultures.
OK. And just quickly, the man at the back in the glasses there. Yes.
Hate crimes have gone up. They certainly have gone up here in Warwickshire, and some people are using the flag as a weapon to say, well, actually, we're British and you're not. And what is worrying as well is that when you've got parties like Britain First and the likes of Tommy Robinson that are funding areas to put up flags in certain parts, again, that's a huge worry. Me personally, I think the St George's flag is the true essence of multiculturalism. St George, where was he from? And where did he die? In a country that I firmly stand behind.
OK. All right, and we're going to leave it there. That is it. Our time is up. Thank you very much to the panel. Thank you to all of you for coming along and putting your points and your questions. And thank you to you at home for watching. Remember, we're in Belfast next week if you want to come and be part of the programme. But for now, from Bedworth in Warwickshire, from all of us here, bye-bye.